Guys, welcome to Finesse and using InDesign. InDesign is where we're going to do the brunt of our magazine building, so it's really important to really know what you're doing. So let's take a look at how we get there. So at this point you should have your Google Drive file stream set up. You go to the team drives and you go into Finesse. I really like to view my files in this way, where you can see like this is the parent folder and that's the subfolder and the subfolder inside of that. It just helps me to see where I am and keep track of what I've got. And then we've got previous years. So you want to go to 2020. If this is working out, this is a new kind of way for me doing it this year. So theoretically, you may be using this 3 years from now, in which case it would be like 2023, right? So just find the folder where we're doing our work, and your editor-in-chief will be able to tell you where to do that. So learning the software, intro to InDesign. First thing you're going to want to do with that is copy this folder and put it in your staff folder. I'm just going to go back to 2019 because I've already got all that set up. It's right now, it's the spring of 2019, and I'm getting ready for next year. So in my staff folder, I'm just going to paste that in, and I hit Command C to copy it and Command V to paste. So once I'm in there, then I can work in that folder. And that's really important because everybody's taking from this file, right? So if you start working on the original thing way back in the main folder, then you're going to screw it up for everybody else. So you always copy the folder first and bring it over to your folder. Now, there are 3 files here. There are the 2 images that are in the InDesign document and then the actual InDesign document. What we're going to open up is the InDesign document. You can tell it's InDesign because it's got the little ID there, INDD. It's an InDesign thing. So we open that up. So this is what InDesign looks like. There's some things to really be aware of, and the first one is that even though it looks a little bit like Microsoft Word or Pages, it is not Pages, and it's not Word. And that sounds obvious, but there's a very big fundamental difference in how it works. And that is that in something like Word or Google Docs, when you bring a picture into the document, it's in the document. It's actually like they've made a copy of the picture, it's there. In InDesign, it's not in the document. It looks like it is, because you're like, hey, what are you talking about? There's a picture there. Well, what you've actually got is a little preview of the picture. It's not as high quality. It doesn't have it's heavily compressed. It's just to let you know what's gonna be there. If it looks particularly bad, if you go up to view here, sometimes when it does like typical display, I don't know if you can see that. Let's do fast display. In fast display, it doesn't even show you the pictures, it just shows you the places where the pictures are gonna be. That way, if you're dealing with a huge document, it doesn't bog the computer down. Most of the time, we're only dealing with two to maybe 6 pages at a time in our class. So high quality display is good. But like I said, the pictures aren't really there, because what it does is when you're done with it, you hit export to export a PDF. And then it's going to say, okay, this is where I put this picture, and this is where I put that picture. And it links out to those pictures. So if you click and then makes a new document with versions in there. So why does that matter? It matters because these 2 pictures right here are the same as this X-Wing Fathead and Rogue PNG. If you go to export your picture, your 2-page spread for the magazine, and you've linked pictures that are on your computer, like saved locally on your hard drive, but maybe say your editor-in-chief needs to export the page now from a different computer, they would go to export it and it wouldn't work because it would try to link out to these pictures and say, I can't find them because they're saved on your local hard drive and they're not there. So it's really important that whenever you build anything in InDesign, and I will repeat this over and over again, that you save everything in the online Google folder that everybody has access to. That way the document isn't broken. If you click on your layers panel here, actually wait, give me a sec. Before we get into the nitty gritty, let's just talk a little bit about what we're looking at here. This is your overall workspace. You've got a bunch of panels here. You've got tools over here on the left. And then depending on what tool you're using and what you're clicking on, you may get different options there. So your first thing is you can change what your different workspaces look like by clicking this button up here. And what they're doing is You always have all the same options. You can go to Window, and there's all kinds of things you can open up. The Workspaces give you easy access to the things you're most likely to want to use for those tasks. So it'll probably start you at Essentials, which I think is pretty worthless. So go to Advanced. And then you've got all these panels here in Advanced. Pages, that shows you how many pages you've got in the document. We've got 2. Layers shows you all the things that are in the document in terms of what's on top of what else. So this Clean Me Please is, if I click the little eyeball, it becomes visible or invisible. And do this with me while you're watching. Like, be following along. Have your video in one window and then your screen in the other one, and do it with me. So you can see that when you click the eyeball, it makes it disappear or come back. And if they're in the order of what's on top of something else. So like this rectangle, this blue rectangle, if I drag that up above, suddenly it's covering everything because it's at the top, but it's in the background. I want it there. So that's kind of how layers work. Links, those show you the actual like files and stuff that you've got, like pictures, and where they are. So it says right here in path, that's the important part, where it's stored. And you can make this window bigger if you want to see all the details there. So it's Team Drive Finesse 2020, learning the software. That's good. If it says something like desktop there, that means you were lazy and you just dragged it in from your desktop. The other big one on links is looking at the size of the picture. If it's like 200 by 200 pixels, it might look okay on your screen, but it's not going to look good being printed. So links are a big one. Layers, strokes and swatches and gradients, we don't really mess with those there very much. Effects we do, but we'll get into that later. Paragraph and character styles, we'll get into those later. The tools that we're really going to focus on right now, because we're just getting introduced to InDesign, are the Select tool, which is what you use to select something and then move it around. I'm just going to undo those by Command Z. The Type tool is a pretty big one that we use a lot, and the rectangle frame tool. So Select tool is pretty simple. That's kind of what you would expect to do. It's your regular mouse. You can resize boxes and move them around. So I just need a box that's the right size for my stuff. Hi, I'm a mess. So that works. If you want a Type tool, you just do that, and then you would click in a text box and you can edit it. So any of these I can kind of mess with, my blah, blah, blah. When you select the Type tool, then the options up here change. So you can select your font, whether it's bold, italicized, or whatever, the size of the font. Lots of different options, whether it's aligned to the left or the right or the center or justified. All those kind of options suddenly come up. The other one is the rectangular frame tool. And the way InDesign works is you basically make boxes and you put things in them. So while you can just like drag a picture in, theoretically, oh, it's already there, so it's going to say it's a problem. Really what you're supposed to do is you make a box, because you're planning out the overall design of the page first, like how you're using your space. And then you would hit File, Place. Well, let's say we want the X-Wing PSD. I'm going to put it right in that box. And now it's in that box. The box kind of frames it out a little bit. And it's a very large image right now, so it's too big for the box. There's ways you can get that, make it smaller. You can click on the little donut, double click on the little donut. Seriously? Click on the donut. That'll let you kind of grab it. My personal favorite though is you right click on the picture, fitting, and then you say fill frame proportionately, and it's going to fill the frame with the thing that you've got there. If you say fitting, fit content proportionately, then it's going to make the whole, you're not going to crop any of the picture, but it might not fill up the frame. So those are your choices there. I'm just going to delete that box. But you always place stuff, and we'll get into that in more details later. You can, if you hold down your mouse button on this, then more stuff comes up. So you can make a frame that's a circle. You can make a frame that's a polygon. You get various options, and then you fill them with stuff. For the most part, we're filling frames with text. We're filling frames with artwork. That's pretty much it. So we are almost done actually with this. There's one last thing that I want you to kind of do, and that is to work with a layers panel. And as I was saying before, there will be times when you're working on something, but then an editor needs to go in and make a last minute change. And if your document looks like this, where everything is in one big layer, it might be quick and fast for you to build it, but it's not quick and fast for the editor to fix it. So it's really kind of important that you make layers and organize things. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a text layer and an image layer. So I'm going to rename this one. We'll call it text. That's text. There we go, text. And then I'm going to click on this little thing here, create this little page and create a new layer. We'll call that images. I just double clicked it and got more options there. If you do a slow double click on it, you'll just get into the box and be able to change that way. So now this image layer is on top of the text layer, which means that anything that goes into the image layer goes above the text. Which sometimes is what you want, sometimes is not what you want. So the order of layers, order of items within a layer matters, and then the order of the layers on top of each other matters. So let's put the X-Wing fathead in there. The rogue PNG is the, you can always click this thing to make sure you're looking at the right object. Rogue PNG goes in there. And then the blue rectangle is the background. We'll put those. Now we got a problem because I put the rectangle, by putting all the images on top, I now have covered up my text layer. That's not a big deal though. We just take the images and we bring that below text and we're fine. Most of the time, just having an images, text, and like a guides layer, that'll do it just fine. Every once in a while though, you'll have like something where you want most of your images under the text, but one image that goes above, and you would just make a third layer that's called like top images or something like that. And then this will make it much, much easier for editors to get in and see, like if they just need to move one of your pictures around and they're not sure which one it is, they just go to the images layer and it's only 3 things that they have to sort through instead of, what, 7? You can also click this little lock button when you're dealing with layers, which means that nothing, while it's locked, you can't grab any of the images. So if I tried to grab that X-Wing, I won't grab it. I'll grab the text underneath it. And sometimes it's hard, particularly as a document gets more busy, it's hard to grab the thing that you want. So then you just lock off the things that you don't want, and then you can grab what you do want. So play with that. There's not that much that you have to do. To get credit for this assignment, you need to have your final document organized into layers so that this looks fine and the layers are fine. And you just save it. If you hit File, Save As, and call it your name in your finished, what are we going to call it this year? We're not really calling it Quest anymore, but we'll say in the Quest folder that you've already copied, we'll just call it, I'm Worden, so I'm going to call it Worden Finished Layers. You know what? Actually, let's just simplify it. One Worden, because it's the first one we're doing. Cool. So then, for me to go grade it, I would go and I would find the one with your name on it, and it's right there. And I'm just going through the stat folders. So play with it. Get a feel for the different tools and stuff, and then save your thing with the layers so that it looks good.